No. All right.
Exactly that scenario. Oh, thank you.
Calling the work session meeting of Monday, May 6, 2024 to order at 6:02 p.m. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brusher.
Here.
Councilmember Coyle.
Uh,
He's in the back. Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Patel.
Here.
Councilmember Patil.
Here.
Councilmember Pointer.
Present.
Councilmember Shmuel.
I think I saw him, but he'll be here.
Well, I think they're here. But
Okay. Madam Clerk, please read the adequate notice.
adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975 has been provided by an annual notice sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger, Desi Talk, and News India Times on December 12, 2023, and posted in Main Lobby Municipal Complex on that same date.
All right, thank you. Opening up to the petition and remarks, starting from the list. First person, Joyce Ship Freeman.
Joyce Ship Freeman, 41 Main Street.
You're right.
First, I want to talk about the Mini Bville. And when I went to the Mini Bville building the other day, I remember me and the North Edison Civic Association fighting for that building and fighting for James Elder Park. When I went into the building, I noticed that Ms. Ville's picture was through over here. I couldn't find James Elder picture, Lieutenant Haskins and Alonzo, these great black artists that had given paper to, who had given a famous picture to represent North Edison. And then I was listening to people saying, let's be hard, let's be much harder on juveniles. Well, when John Speaks was there, and I was there earlier, they had programs for the actual teenagers and they had programs for the adolescents. It was very, very thriving building prior to that. But then I heard there was mercury there on the floor, all right? So I'm like, I've been there like for 30 years. I've been in the school system. So, I mean, I must be full of asbestos and then now I'm full of mercury at the same time. So, it should be somebody that I could sue for my health. Now, on May 1st, which was an exciting day, Woodbridge had a summit for their seniors, and also Metuchen had a summit for their seniors. Seniors were afforded the opportunity to find out everything that Middlesex County offers for seniors. And also, still, the meetings are being hidden from the constituents. They said they don't know what's going on. They're just, seeing other stories and hearing other stuff that's going on. They're getting emails, but a lot of them who don't have online, they want to know when the meetings are. Somebody said one was as late as a Friday night. I don't know, because I have internet, so I see that now. And then they got, we're talking about all these extra police officers that were hired, but I don't have a problem with it, but we got a whole lot of chiefs and very few Indians. So therefore, when we have all the chiefs, that limits the amount of patrolmen that we have on the street. So I don't think that would be braggadocious. I don't think that's a good idea, because I'm still hearing about the robberies and stuff in the Clarabar section. And I know I was given information before that they've calmed down on taking the catalytic converters. Okay, and then the extra 60,000 money for the PR firm. Only reason why I'm speaking about it is because the mayor spends his time trolling me with his little PR firm. And I think it's ridiculous, because if I look in other neighborhoods, when they do the PR, when the mayors and other people do it, the actual town, the constituents, and everybody else pays for it, not the actual taxpayers. I think that's ridiculous that we're paying for that now, for that. And then I also wanted to know about the Oprah request, people said that the lawyers' salaries are doubling because of the Oprah request, and some people have to almost go out and get lawyers in order for their Oprah request to be honored. And we know that down in Trenton, they're still talking about trying to make the Oprah request weaker. But they don't have to worry, because in our town, it's like being with the CIA for you to get information. It's very, very hard. You don't get information. Nobody can seem to answer you. And that's why some people just think, they told me, they said, well, you go keep going. There's a bunch of bobbleheads. You're not going to get anything. And I said, oh, that's not nice, because some of them do answer you. Some of them do. Others don't answer you. And then I was like, at the amount of money that's being paid out, and for us to be sitting on we have a person sitting on the insurance commission, and for us to do all the backdoor deals, plus double the amount of lawyers, that's a lot of money. That's a whole lot of money, especially for seniors to have to pay out of their pocket. So I'm just expecting more, because I'm saying that if there's so much mercury in Minnieville, you're saying, well, we threw the kids out, so let's just kill off the seniors by putting them in there. So I'm very, very disappointed with the way things are going on like that. But I do wish that we would think twice before we keep hiring a PR firm, because we're not supposed to pay for your election. We're not supposed to pay for political stuff. And I think that's unfair that people have the ability to spend my money for you to insult me. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question on the mercury on the floor.
This is the first I've heard of any allegations regarding mercury, so obviously we'll look into it. So thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay. And also about the meetings not being broadcasted on TV, did we get an update on that?
The meetings are broadcasted on the TV. They are shared on YouTube, on our website. So to answer your question, they are aired and they're available for the public.
Okay.
Could we get the timeline on, excuse me, sir, could we get the timeline on that? Because, I mean, I could show it as, say, M or 11, well, you know what I mean? Please get the timeline on it.
Is her time to, oh, okay, you still have time. Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
Can we get the timeline on it? Because I think the last time the complaint was that they were really at off hours. Okay. So can we get it done twice? I think that's what the request is, if that's possible.
Sure.
Thank you.
And last,
Your
the
time is up, I'm sorry.
trees on Main
Ma'am,
Street.
please sit down. Thank you. And last question
the
was
best
the,
time. Okay.
can you please sit down?
I
Your
will
time's
sit
up.
down in a second, if you could
Can
answer.
you please sit down? All right. And then the last question was on the Oprah request. Is the salary being doubled of lawyers?
Again, I can't confirm that allegation. Obviously, it's part of what the scope of work our attorneys do. So I'm not understanding that allegation necessarily.
Okay, thank you. Next person, please not talking back and forth. Next person is Madhu Simawati.
Good evening, dear Council and Administration. My name is Madhu Simakurti from District 1 as a committee member. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for your unwavering dedication in shaping our Edison Township into current state. Thanks to your efforts, we find ourselves in a far better position than we were in previous years. The implementation of new initiatives has played a significant role in revitalizing our township and restoring its greatness. I have a topic. However, despite these strides, one glaring gap remains. With the absence of Edison Youth Volleyball, I believe all of you agree that we need sports in our school-age children. Our high schools, JP Stevens or Edison High, representation in the volleyball is low because of we are depriving of volleyball or other valuable opportunities like extracurricular engagement and growth. So introducing this youth volleyball program early on in the elementary, middle school, etc., will give us more benefits, not only for the students, but also the entire community. Our nonprofit we have started recently and is fully committed in investing time and energy into this cause, but we cannot do it alone. I'm hopeful that our Edison Mayor and Council members will consider extending their support to this endeavor through grants and other means. The lack of indoor courts and high costs associated with rentals and coaching are major barriers, preventing kids from participating. This is not only diminishes their opportunities for development, but also adds to the financial burden already borne by the parents through the taxes. By establishing such a program, we can provide our children with the tools they need to succeed and foster growth of future leaders within our township. This is an investment in our community's future, one that promises to yield long-lasting benefits and generations to come. I sincerely thank you for your consideration and support in making this a vision a reality. I appreciate all your support, and I want to we have an organization formed by all the likes of kids that are wanting to move forward with youth volleyball. So we look forward to making this happen. Anywhere they go, there is no facilities that are available for them to venture out. We want to play all the seasons and make Edison schools better and our township better. I really appreciate everyone's support in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhu. I think you applied for the grants and,
Yes.
Council President, we have a meeting with the organization on Wednesday.
okay,
Thank you. Thanks everyone for taking this.
of
Thank you.
course.
Bye.
All right, thank you, Madhu. Next person is Charlie Cretowell. I hope I pronounced that right.
Good evening, Council. Charlie Cradaville. I'm from New Brunswick. I'm the editor of New Brunswick Today, a community news outlet. Through you, Chair, for the Deputy Chief, I wanted to know, was the Edison Police Department's handling of the January 1st incident at the train station appropriate or inappropriate?
I would ask you to take it offline, if you don't mind.
Well, I'll have you know that I did. I reached out to the chief and the deputy chief since May 1st. I reached out twice by phone and 3 times in email and got no response. So I'm here.
So you're looking for comments from
Yeah,
the
I'm
police?
looking for an answer. Was it appropriate or inappropriate? What happened that night?
I would ask them to respond to you via email, or you can take it offline, sir.
Will they respond via email? Because I've tried 3 times now. Can you ask the gentleman to respond?
Council President, if I could,
Yes,
if I
go
might.
ahead, Sonia.
I'll certainly make sure that request gets out. If you could just send it to my attention, and we'll coordinate something.
Okay, I will follow up with the BA, but I don't understand why the police department can't speak for themselves. I did not even get the courtesy of a response. On my article that I'll draw your attention to is published this morning on newbrunswicktoday.com. Mayor Joshi gave a no comment, but at least he responded. The police department has not responded in any way, and I'm disappointed.
I understand. I will make them aware, and I'll be sure that they will respond.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And now I'll just speak from the heart. I am, here for a reason. I'm concerned. I think migration is likely to become more frequent, partly due to bad things like climate crisis and political unrest, but also due to good things like improvements in transportation. And I think it's important that we have logical and compassionate policies for how we deal with migration, and not policies that empower fascism. And I'm concerned about how Edison handled the incident on January 1st. I'm very concerned about the language that's been used by the mayor. And I'm now more concerned that when I'm asking questions that people don't want to talk about it now. I think we need to talk about it now, because the decisions we make today will set the policies for how the future is handled. And I'm very concerned about what I saw in the videos and what I learned from my reporting. And so I would encourage everybody to discuss this, and for the council to be leaders and speak on this. And if the police aren't going to speak on it, by all means, the council should take the lead, and I would hope condemn what went down in the early morning hours of the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Moving on to number 4, we have Spider-Man with us.
Thank you for recognizing me. Am I recognized?
You're recognized.
Okay. one thing I want to say, we all just witnessed, the deputy chief is right there. If he wants to answer a question, he will answer the question. He, as cowards usually do, he just sits there, doesn't answer the question. Exactly why I got aggravated the last time I was here. In fact, he had so much slander to the media to say about me. After I beat my case, I asked him outside, I said, hey, Deputy Chief Dudash, you're the media coordinator. Would you like to give us an update on the predator catcher case? He just smiled, walked away. Just smiled and walked away. Did you find something funny, Deputy Chief Dudash? Why doesn't he want to make the comment that I beat the case, which is an actual factual statement? My trial starts on the 13th. I'm going to go to trial. I'm going to beat that trial. Shame on this town. Absolute shame on this town. Shame on Councilman Pointer for disrupting me when it was a legit rebuttal, and the speaker before that who was doing a legitimate rebuttal. Okay. I watched some of the recordings with the bus full of immigrants, and racist Edison cops, once again, racist Edison cops, talking about we got to shoot them out of town. You understand, like it's the wild, wild west, treating immigrants. We don't even know if they were immigrants. You guys acted like it was 20 busloads of people. I watched the video, it was one bus. Between 10, 15 people. They could have been going sightseeing. So now Edison Police and Mayor Sam Joshi is gonna kick people out of town who they don't want to travel through town. It seems they kick the Hispanics out of town and then call them drug dealers and driving around with kilos in the bus, while we allow the South Asians to come here down Meadow Road, down the boat docks, 5, 10, 20 buses, but we're not allowed to stop them. We're not allowed to stop them. It seems like it's racism. There's racism going on against Hispanic people. There's racism going on against people that live in this town. How much time do I have left, Marlena? 3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes to, through the chair to Councilman Brescher and the Deputy Chief Dudash. This is how you train your officers? This is how you train your officers? Let me grab some paperwork over here. I'd like to submit some papers. I'd like to submit some papers on the record, okay? I'm receiving mails all around town. They say Chief Bryan's making $300,000 a year by state law, will be ending his career in December. There is a provision, however, in the law that allows the mayor to extend his time another 2 years. The chief wants to do this so the chief can spend time with his live-in girlfriend. This is what other people in the town are putting out, not me, not coming out from me, who is also his personal and private secretary in the police department. The police department is in shambles. The town is crime-ridden and needs to be reorganized and properly run. A professional police director, not a police chief, should be appointed who could turn this department around. How come Christo is out catching child predators and Deputy Chief Dudash and his officers are not? How much time do I have left? 1.5 minutes. Where I would like to submit some proofs to the council when this is done. Furthermore, I receive mail, allegedly, this is saying, and this is for you guys to investigate. It's not for me to investigate. It's for you guys to investigate. Kenneth Schreck, at the time of this incident, was a sergeant. The violations he pled guilty to were criminal in nature. However, because of his relationships, he was able to evade criminal prosecution. Where it becomes interesting is Schreck was promoted to captain by Chief Bryan and was placed at the head of internal affairs, which is a direct violation of Attorney General guidelines. With his record, he should never have been placed there. However, the chief did not care. Now Schreck serves as the head of OEM for Edison. This criminal is collecting his pension and being paid by the taxpayers for this other position. Apparently there's proofs that I'm gonna submit to Miss Marlena. We're not gonna do the chief's contract. December, let him go. We're spending hundreds of thousands. Are you aware, through the chair, Councilman Brush, are you aware that they can't find me guilty? There's no evidence in any of my cases, so they now got the county prosecutors working with them to...
Spider-Man, you can address me, please.
I said through the chair to Councilman Brescia, this is what I'm talking about, Vice President. I am following Robert's Rules of Order. And here he is creating chaos to take away from my time so I can debate him on irrelevant matters. This has to stop. Don't filibuster me when it's my time to speak. How much time do I have left, Marlon? Huh? 44 seconds. You know, shame on this Edison Police Department. This is how you train your officers. You used to train the officers, Deputy Chief Dudash. Did you train them to be racists? Did you chase them to chase people out of town? Violate civil rights, violate the Attorney General's guideline, violate the right to free travel? Is that the kind of character that you have your officers when they go out? That's a reflection of you and how you train them. And if that's not cause to fire Deputy Chief Dudas and Chief Bryan for not properly training these officers, I don't know what is.
Sit down.
Investigate the police.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak?
Octo Nasser, Pleasant Avenue. Clarabar is continuously being bullied into directions that do not befit the neighborhood. It's happened 3 times with various administrations, including this one that tried to close the library, and the last 2 administrations that have supported 4-story buildings to spur redevelopment. 8 years ago, Clarabar residents opposed the 4-story ordinance, and to this day, residents do the same because it just hasn't worked. At last Monday's planning board meeting, we were excited to see that the planning board agenda had a vote on the resolution, ironically only passing through the council with 75% of the vote from North Edison council members. It's a shame that we couldn't get all the other South Edison council members to vote in favor, but that's another story. Unfortunately, last Monday's vote never happened because the chairman of the board stated that we needed to have another study to figure out why the current plan wasn't working. Doesn't that sound weird? A study to figure out why a plan doesn't work? If a plan of 8 years didn't work, maybe it's time to try something different. What do you think? Maybe listen to the residents that live there. So this begs the question of if the planning board knew that the plan was not working, why didn't the planning board conduct a new study prior to the last week? Why did we have to force their hand by a resolution? And why did it take them 45 days to come to the conclusion that they needed a study? That seems like a delay tactic, doesn't it? If the planning board knew that the plan was not working, why didn't they conduct this study 2 years ago when the town just started working on the master plan, instead of doing it at the conclusion of the master plan? That's what I would have done, but what do I know? As of this moment, I'm just a committee person. It's very frustrating to see how this whole situation has unraveled. For months, we wasted so much time at council meetings to try to get a repeal ordinance to make it to the floor. I wish those that said a repeal ordinance wouldn't work would have found the pathway of the resolution sooner, and that includes the legal team. I continue to question those that voted against the public advocate. In this case, we could have used that official. It is clear that the planning board will only listen to the public if the council acts. But the council has no purview in what happens at planning board meetings, so that is an ineffective tactic. The reason some of you say we shouldn't have a public advocate is because we gave them funds to hire experts, but they just don't hire those people. It would be great to have a public advocate because they would have stepped in when the planning board refused to do so. Every time I go to the planning board, they turn a blind eye to my legal points and to give a runaround to me and the council. Case in point, I asked them if they would amend the master plan if the study came back saying that we should only have 3 stories. The answer I received was the master plan is never done. It is evolving. A good answer would have been, yes, we give you our word that we'll come back and we'll change the master plan once the study is complete. But an even better answer would have been, we hear the council, we hear the people of Clarabar. We know the plan is not working. Let's bring the ordinance back to 3 stories until the study is done. That would have been a rational decision, don't you think? So where do we go from here? There was no reason why it should have taken 45 days for a response. Actually, I don't think there really was a response. It was my understanding the planning board had to have completed the study in the 45 days. What can the council do at this point? Can the council vote to change the language on the ordinance now?
Council?
So, which part do you want me to address?
First, address the public advocate. Would they have helped in this situation?
My understanding of the public advocate ordinance that was proposed is that they really wouldn't have had the ability to affect this much. They may have been able to present something during the council meeting, but no action was actually taken by the planning board. And the public advocate is designed to challenge actions that are actually taken. That would be the role. So if they had voted it down, that might be a role of the public advocate. But under these circumstances, an action wasn't taken, so you can't compel them to act in that circumstance. So that's that aspect of it.
Okay. And in terms of what actions can we take now? Is that something you can research, or do you know?
I'll certainly, I'll sit down with Mr. Renaud, and we'll talk about it. We'll figure out exactly what the council can do, rather than me speculate on the possible actions that we could take right now. I'll get that back to you before the next, before the next meeting.
So that means Wednesday?
As long as Mr. Renaud has time to sit down and talk, yeah.
Okay, so it is something that could be possible that we can do something, so we're not twiddling our thumbs and waiting a year for them to come back with a study, because that to me is not something.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you something and find out that there was some other, I don't know what happened at the planning board meeting. I don't know what they ultimately determined to do, or what they actually put in front of it. So I need to figure that out first before I tell you we can do X, Y, or Z. And it might be a multiple choice answer, where it's we can do this or this, and the council will have to figure that out, how they want to proceed.
At this point, Councilman Pointer can go ahead and fill in you with that, because he is the liaison. So if you want to
Yeah, I'm going to have to talk to him.
talk to him offline, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else that would like to speak? All right. Seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close?
May I have a second?
Second.
Now, that's a motion by Council Vice President, second by Councilman Pointer. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to number 5, review of minutes. Any comments? Councilman Brescher?
Oh, no, not for 5.
Okay. All right. Moving on to number 6, reports from all council committees. Starting on my left, right, Councilman Brescher?
Yes, I still have not set up that, our Veterans Committee. We've had for the Veterans Committee.
Okay.
We've had just difficult time kind of coordinating everybody's schedule, but we'll set it up with the majority of the people, even if I can't make it, but my other 2 colleagues can make it. So at least we can have this and move this forward. I know that they have stones that are made. It's a matter of just getting some work done, in the park that could easily be done by the township, or even through like donations. But I don't know where that goes with like legal, whether we could have somebody donate to do electrical work if they're licensed electricians here. I maybe, maybe that would be something nice, Michael, if you could look into and see if we have people that'll donate their time and material, if they could come and do that.
I think it's highly project dependent, if it's permitted at all. So can you email me some of the details? Maybe we can talk about it a little bit so that I can target the research.
It's real simple. We're gonna do headstones, much like a cemetery. So we have to pour a couple shallow foundation footings, and we're gonna do a little bit of electric for some lights and put a like a flagpole up.
I'll look into it for you.
All right, that would be it.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. Councilman Coyle?
None, sir.
All right. Council Vice President?
Yes. From the animal shelter, the monthly report, the news is good. Dog adoptions, there were 11 in the last month. One was Fred, who had been there in the shelter since June of last year. So that's big news. Cat adoptions, there have been 8. Total animals in the shelter, 15 dogs, 2 nursing mom cats, 1 pregnant cat, 26 kittens, and 4 feral. They are currently perfectly staffed. There's one ongoing abuse case, canine, that is housed there. And to the business administrator, does that mean that this has been a report of animal abuse and they are being held in the shelter until that is resolved?
I can look into that particular situation for you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Upcoming events, July 13th is the first annual adoption event, and July 19th is it's a big event that is going to, the benefits will go to the animal shelter. It's the Somerset Patriots, Friday, July 19th, 7:05 PM, $15 a ticket, which is pretty reasonable, and the fundraiser does benefit the municipal animal shelter. So you can, let's see, you can, there's a scan on here. I think there's some flyers downstairs in the lobby on the desk there, but you would go to, so there's a website you can go to. The website is mtingole@somersetpatriots.com, or the phone number 908-255-1419. And that would be my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Councilman Patil.
None at this time.
Councilman Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. Nothing crazy. I did have not a direct meeting with the Housing Authority, but I did have a good conversation with Deborah Hurley in regards to the goals and objectives of the Housing Authority, and I'll be sure to keep updated as the year moves on. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Pointer. Thank you, Councilman Pointer. Councilman Shmuel.
Not at this time, sir.
All right. As for me, I attended the Open Space Committee meeting this Thursday, and one of the things that was presented by Walt Stoschel was this plan that was actually completed, and I'm going to put it out on the table for anyone that wants to take a look at it. And can we make a copy of this?
I have to send it up to upstairs.
Okay, that's fine. Essentially, it's the Municipal Boulevard, Papiani Park, Central Avenue Bikeway Connectivity Project, Phase 1. This was contract number 927-02, and this was when Mayor Jun Choi was around. And pretty much all the engineering is done, and it's a pretty good plan, and I'm hoping to revitalize this plan, or the Open Space Committee is hoping to revitalize this plan. We might have to make some changes, as there's obviously new changes on the Papiani Park, but this is something the Open Space is very interested in continuing. So I'm going to put this on the table if anybody wants to take a look at it, and I'm going to be presenting it to our BA, so hopefully we can move forward with this. All right. Yeah. And that's it for me. Moving on to number 7. Points of light. Starting on my right, Councilman, anyone have any points of light?
Yeah, I do. I've got
Council Vice President?
quite a few, yes. In no particular order, first of all, I want to wish anyone who celebrates a happy Greek Easter. I want to wish everybody a happy Mother's Day this coming Sunday. It's also happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Today is Holocaust Remembrance Day. And May 19th is the mayor's 24-mile bike ride, the bike tour through Metuchen and Edison, which I will be taking part in. I believe my council colleagues, Council President Patel, Patel and Councilman Pointer will be joining this year. So we look forward to that. Hope that we have good weather. And finally, the Police Unity Tour starts this coming Friday. And prior to that, on Thursday, May 9th, there's going to be a team ride through Edison to honor and remember the fallen officers. They will be stopping by the locations of their deaths for a moment of silence and to lay flowers in the memory. The ride will leave the police department at 9 and return at 11. There will be a ceremony immediately following the ride, hopefully at the police memorial in front of the police department, weather permitting. If not, it will be moved inside to council chambers. We will introduce the team and talk about the Unity Tour purpose. Then on Friday, May 10th, the 17 officers, as I understand it, 17 who are participating in the Unity Tour that goes from, it's going to start out in Franklin, at the Franklin Police Department at 495 DeMott Lane in Somerset. And that kicks off at 7:30 a.m. on Friday. I will be there. The first night they will be in Philadelphia, second night in Baltimore, and they will wind up in Washington, D.C. on Sunday the 12th, and they go to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. So for those of you who want to give a send-off, either a send-off here That would be Thursday at 11 a.m. here at the municipal building. And if you do want to go over to the Franklin Municipal Complex to actually see them off, that's Friday at 7:30 p.m. That will be it.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Any other council members? All right, seeing none, I'm going to be repeating a lot of what Council Vice President already said. So we have the fishing derby that was this past Saturday. Also on Saturday, May 11th, Town Hall parking lot. There'll be 8 to 12. There'll be I'm sorry, confused by this. What is this?
E-cycle, it's here, here's the flyer.
Oh, so there's recycling for the e-cycling, and what the items are accepted are CRTs, computers, laptops, monitors, printer scanners, fax machines, televisions, cell phones, tablets. What will not be accepted is white goods, household appliances, light bulbs, batteries, hazardous waste, compressed gas cylinder, medical waste. That'll be May 11th, Saturday, 8 to 12 at the Town Hall parking lot. Okay, and on May 12th is Mother's Day, so we have to thank all the ladies in our lives that have essentially made us strong and helped us get to where we are. So happy Mother's Day to everybody. And Metuchen Bike Tour, as Council Vice President already covered, is on May 19th. 8 a.m. is the registration which starts at 9 a.m. I think it's going to go up until 2 p.m. Saturday, May 25th is a Memorial Day Parade. May 20th to October, Farmers Market at Swales Park, located at 64 Parkway, on Thursdays from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. And Monday, May 27th at 11:45 a.m. is Memorial Day flag raising at Oak Tree Pond Park. Okay, moving on to the departments and questions. Starting at number 8 from the Business Administration, A through C. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Council President.
Council Vice President?
On A, on the Vision Media contract. I'm okay. I think it's important that the public is made aware of things that are going on. I did speak to the mayor this morning about the fact that what I do object to is the fact that council input has not been a part of this particular publication. We had, I think, one time last year when Councilman Pointer was council president, and I was vice president, where there were little blurbs that we gave in there, but that was it. So I had a long conversation with him, and we agreed that in forthcoming issues of the Illuminator, there will be reports from some of the council committees and commissions. It may not be from every single committee or commission. It's going to be more in terms of real important action being taken. And so that will now, in forthcoming issues, be a part of the Illuminator. And I will definitely be holding the mayor's feet to the fire on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Anybody else?
Yes, Council
Councilman
President.
Brusher?
This is a business administrator. Sonia, can I get a list of everything that Vision Media has worked on this year, dated? So if they did a flyer that they sent out, right? If you could send me a copy of the email or something that shows it's dated. I want to see what kind of value we're getting and how much work they're actually doing, and whether that work is for the mayor, because on their website it says they work for the mayor and they work for the township. Now, I don't know that we ever approved Vision Media to work for the mayor. I believe we approved for them to work for the township. Okay, so I'd like to see what that is, because I also was sent an email that was a little concerning, and it did relate to that whole January 1st incident where, Vision Media was talking with the mayor about how to publicize this. And I know our mayor loves publicity, right? He did the whole racist flyer thing, and now he's got the January 1 thing. But to be quite honest with you, we shouldn't publicize things like this and bring these up like these are big hot topics when they're really not that hot a topic. So I'd like to see the work that they did for this township that earned them this money. And I'd like to get that for tomorrow so I could talk with colleagues about it as to whether I think we should move forward with this or not. That would be it, Council
Thank you,
President.
Councilman Brescher. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, moving on to number 9 from the Department of Finance. A through I, we are adding 2 capital bond ordinance. Madam Clerk, if you don't mind reading the
Titles?
titles, please.
Okay, a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements, appropriating $29,855,126, and financing $28,014,413 in bonds or notes. And the other bond ordinance is for providing improvements for the solid waste collection for $1,400,000.
Okay, and Sonia, if you don't mind, can you cover a quick summary of this?
Sure. It's not quick, but I will cover it, surely. So, and then I will provide this memo also to all of the council, so they see the breakdown of all of the capital improvements. So I'm first going to cover the 2024 municipal improvement authorization. So what that covers, I'll start with police. That's for various police public safety equipment and projects, including in addition to the police garage. Next is the fire department. That's the purchase of a fire engine pumper. I believe that's a 15-plus-year-old vehicle, and those things are taking about 3 years to get on order, so we want to get ahead of it. Next, under engineering for $6.5 million, that covers all of our road program, essentially. Under a separate line item, $250,000, that covers the drainage and stormwater. We've now elevated that number because when we're doing the road project, there are concerns about the drainage in some of those roads, so we want to make sure we have enough to cover that issue separately. In addition, under engineering, design and procurement, installation of the solar power driver feedback signs, which we've identified certain locations that include, but not limited to, but for purposes of our bond, we are covering Brotherhood, Ethel, Old Post Boulevard, and McKinley. Those have come up to the council quite a few times, so we want to appropriate some funding for that. Again, under engineering, $250,000 for various roadway striping projects throughout the township. This includes center line striping, train crossing striping signage, the do not cross boxes throughout the township. $150,000 for the design, construction, installation of pedestrian flashing beacon system at Old Post Road and Boulevard of the Eagles. $4.3 million under Public Works, the acquisition of various vehicles, equipment, including dump trucks, backhoes, paving units, salt spreading equipment, tree removal vehicles and equipment, utility vehicles, trailers, and other mobile equipment. I'll tell you, a lot of this stuff is about 30 years old, 20 to 30 years old. So, and I can surely have a breakdown of those specific vehicles for you, which I plan, by the way, to have all of this broken down into that budget binder in great detail before, so you have weeks to look at this before it gets adopted. Then under Public Works, $1.5 million for various building improvements, renovations, construction repairs, lighting, alarms. This is everything that comes under the sun for most of our buildings. It will, various buildings. $250,000 for various park improvements, including general improvements, renovations, new construction of various courts, fields, trails, parking, security, playgrounds, and other related equipment. $5.2 million under Public Works for various parks. Again, you know, we have about 30-something odd parks, 36 more or less, just to make sure all of our parks are up to par, safety, everything, including basketball courts, tennis courts, volleyball courts, you name it. So we want to make sure that we are full steam ahead in making sure that all of our parks are being addressed. $1.5 million for purchase and installation of fuel tanks related to systems and including removal of equipment and remediation. This is at one of our garages. We are required to remove and get new tanks in there. $355,000 recreation purchase of various vehicles and equipment. Again, we want to make sure that on the recreation side, we have the proper equipment and vehicles to hold all of our various programming throughout the township. Under recreation, the purchase of property included renovations, furniture, and fixtures. If you look at the bond ordinance, the location is 925 Amboy Avenue. Again, I'll provide greater detail for everyone on that acquisition. $50,000 for purchase of various equipment. Under purchasing, this is for, I believe, the new mail machine that is in dire need. Under technology, $300,000 for installation of new network infrastructure, switches, telecommunication systems, desktops, computers, monitors, everything that you can think of that we need throughout the year for all of the township employees. And then for $2.1 million, Section 20 costs. So what this does, it covers our professional services, some of our engineering personnel we can add to the Section 20 costs. So that's more related on the professional side when we're working on these projects, and we're able to do that and bond for it. So in total, that's $29,855,126. I think I would have passed my test in school if I said that. And then on the 2024 solid waste collection district improvement, we have a total of $1.4 million. What that covers is various vehicles, trucks, equipment, and the renovations to various facilities, including roof replacements and repairs. And this, again, goes back to the solid waste. This is what we're bonding with that budget that's presented before you.
Okay. Thank you, Sonia. Now, I will open it up to my council colleagues if anybody has questions.
Council President?
Council
Yes.
Vice President?
Just a couple on D. And I had a conversation with the business administrator last night, but just a couple of comments and questions. With regard to the revenues that were down $6 million this year, and it's explained why that has to do with, I think we said liquor licenses, and that had to do with the rescue plan, I think that is no longer in effect. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. It just occurs to me, and I've seen an article, and this is just for the record, that in Neptune, revenues from the cannabis taxation accounts for 1.5% of the $56.3 million municipal budget in 2024, marking the first time the township will use that money to invest in the town and helping to lower the tax rate. And that little blurb is, I think, it's very significant. And as we don't have liquor licenses out there to really sell, to give out, well, to sell, it just seems to me that if we had approved the ordinance for the cannabis, for the cannabis locations, this was, I think in a way it's a missed opportunity. So I just want to put my 2 cents in for that. I also wanted to know, and it's the sheet 40C, the water line replacements. In looking at the estimated total cost is $30,724,000. In looking at the projected for the years 2024 to 2029, it's kind of a zigzag. It's in the 6.8 million for 2024, 6.2 million for 2025, then goes way up to 9.2, almost 9.3 million for 2026, then way down to 2.7 in 2027 and 2.7 in 2028, the same in 2029. And I just wanted a clear explanation as to how we come to those numbers and how they zig and zag as they do. So I wonder if someone can address that.
Sure. I just wanted to confirm our conversation that we did have regarding this was that this is a breakdown of what we're required to do under the ACO for the pump stations and the gravity inspections main force. So again, Ken can elaborate on more or less how the planning is coming through.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was compiled from our consulting engineers based upon the work schedule that they need to do, and it's sequencing it. And Some of it is being staged so that we're not doing everything all in the same year. We've got certain physical limitations and financial limitations. We don't want to overburden the water rates, so that's why we've spread it out as much as we can. So that's why you see it's not a flat, consistent amount every year. But these are programs and projects that our engineer had put together based upon a reasonable work schedule in order to comply with the ACO.
Okay, so I'm just interested in the number, especially for 2026, where it jumps to 9.3 million from the 6.2.
Yeah, well, you'll see in 2025, we're up to 14.8 million. So we're in 2024, we're projecting 17.85 million.
Excuse me, Mr. Roberts, I'm looking at sheet 40C,
Yes.
and I'm looking, this is water line replacements, that the estimated total cost of 30,700,000.
Okay, just the water line, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering about the year 2026 and what's going on there that the number jumps so much.
The anticipation is that the bulk of the work is going to get done then. It will take some time to do the inspection work, but in 2026, you're going to see some things. The other thing is too, just a reminder to everybody, if we were to go out there and do everything all at once and rip up every road, it would be unimaginable, and we'd probably get a lot of angry folks. So that's why the planning is done in this manner. So, but in 2026, I almost guarantee you that's when you're going to see a lot of the roads being opened up for purposes of actually getting the work done.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Council Vice President.
Council President?
Councilman Brescher?
Yes, I have, first, I'd like to state for the record here tonight, because I did this when I was on the Board of Education, when they were trying to pass a bond for $189 million. And the public said no to that. And I understand the public's will, and I've always been an advocate for the public's will. But at the rate that the construction cost has increased over the last few years, that $189 million is now going to be $240 million. So if the public would have approved it, we would be saving tens and tens of millions of dollars. And my fear that I have here is the same thing, where we're talking about putting this stuff off until this mayor's term is up. So this mayor, we're spending money on like a splash park, right, and all the fancy, shiny doodads, but we're not taking care of the infrastructure, okay? And during his 4-year term, I will guarantee you that the cost for this infrastructure increase is going to be 50 to 70% higher than if he would have taken it by the reins on day one. So I'm not a fan of putting this stuff off for years, okay? Talk about our residents being, up in arms because we're digging. You're absolutely right. But Sonia, can I ask how much money we spent on paving in the first year of the mayor's term, the second year, and now the third year? What have we projected to pave?
On average, I want to say 6 million each year.
6 million. So $18 million. And then there's a possibility, and somebody can correct me if they're going to tell me that there's no possibility, that we have to open up these brand new roads to do the sewer and water and infrastructure things to fix these. Or has Bob Smith guaranteed us that there is no need to open up any of these roads?
Just to answer your question, that's coordinated with our engineering department. So we're coordinating roads and the road list with Mr. Smith.
Okay, I heard that, but we're talking about having to open up all these roads, yet we've paved $18 million of roads to date, or we might have paved $12 million to date, and we're going to do another 6 this year. My point being that everything to date that's paved will not be opened up for our infrastructure? That's simply my question. Would that be a true statement? Or are we going to open them up later on because it wasn't coordinated properly? And then at who gets held accountable for this? Because this body is not charged with, execution of this. So who do we hold responsible at that time?
I think, Sonia, you said that they coordinated it with the engineering so that there should not be a reopening of roads that are already been paved, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay. Fifth water sewer, right? Fuel tanks. The fuel tanks, why are they being replaced and why do we have to take care of contamination? Wouldn't we have, and I'm just going to say this, like if I were to have built something, right, and I know that I'm going to be pouring diesel fuel, right, I'm going to make sure it's not on the ground, that it's going to be over concrete or something like that. You'd have a pad or something like that to catch it. So what would this contamination be from?
So I can have Ray Porio come up, our DPW director. We're not saying there is contamination, but we're required through DEP to do these inspections. But I can have him elaborate exactly on the process.
Good evening. Councilman, as you know, as yourself and the rest of the council, you approved us to do and to build a new road garage. Recently, we had our audit of our fuel tanks. We had to do some repairs to them, and it was solidified that those tanks are between 25 to 30 years old. So what we decided to do, rather than building a new road garage and now all new asphalt, to your point of what you're referring to in your other comment, is to remove the tanks out, put in a new fueling station before we go ahead, or actually in conjunction with when we build the new road garage. There isn't any contamination that we're aware of. We just had our spill tank tested, came back clean. We have all of the reporting. So it's more of trying to coincide, as you just mentioned, projects together so you don't have to do something twice.
Would these tanks be in the ground that you're going to place them? Or would they be...
So that's to, we hired an architect. We're about to go into some conversations with him. We did internally right now a program component, meaning we have X amount of trucks, we're looking for X amount of space. It really depends upon the ultimate layout of what the site is. And those size tanks take up a tremendous amount of space to go above ground. So we really have to see what our space availability is before I make that commitment to you one way or another.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. We have, I guess, this is like 381,000 we have for the network and stuff. I just hope that when we do this, whatever money we're going to put into our network, into our IT room, that we take care of it so we have the proper fire protection in there that won't wipe it out at some time.
Yes.
I think we briefly talked about
Yes.
that today. Question, 925 Amboy Avenue. $5 million, and what is that for? What parcel, where, and what would be the purpose of this?
That's 924 Amboy Avenue. It's my understanding that the community over there in the Clarabar section of town is requesting a potential community center or area in which they feel that would be a proponent to what they're trying to establish within the community. So it's my understanding that this is for that acquisition of the property.
So the residents are asking us what is there on the ground right now at the 924 Amboy Avenue? Is there a building, 4 stories, 3 stories?
It is a closed restaurant.
It's a closed restaurant.
Correct.
This isn't Jade Dynasty.
Yes, it is.
Well, you had like $5 million in here, I believe. But it was like listed for, I think, $2 million.
So the one is
if that's the truth, Tanya, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to say this right now. This mayor is going down the road of George Spadoro with the $5 million pond. So what is this $5 million just for the property you're talking about buying?
The
no, that's the acquisition and any improvements thereof. So it's not just acquisition, it's the
You're going to
acquisition
buy
and
it
then
for the 2
improvements.
million, and then you're going to build something for 2 million. Can you tell me what you've built here in this township for $2 million? Because I know that we have a 10,000 square foot facility that we're building, and I think that's like 12 million. So I'm wondering the size of whatever you plan on putting on the property that you have left with the $2 million you got left over.
So it's my understanding there's an existing building, so that building is there, and there would just be improvements to the building.
The restaurant, you're going to turn it into a community center. Hate to tell you, but you can't play basketball in there. I've eaten in there, okay? Maybe you could play badminton and bounce it off the ceiling. I'll be honest with you, this is the silliest idea. I do hope the mayor puts this up. As God is my witness, he will be George Spadoro too, all right? This will be the $5 million pond deal, but this will just be the second one. And, you know, it's all done for politics. I'm sure we'll get it out there to the rest of the public. But thank you for being forthcoming with that information. That would be it, Council President.
Councilman Brasher. Anybody else?
Council President,
Councilman Patil.
a few questions. I will not go into the details, but the way the bond ordinance landed on the desk, $30 million on Monday evening, it's a serious concern. I don't know why this was not published a month ago or socialized with the council members, but that's a first red flag to me. Yes, some of the projects are good, but some of those questions will be to mayor during the budget presentation. My question to you is there are several line items for the parks. Have we considered matching grants from county for all that? I would like to really see the package that would say, hey, this is for the park improvement, and here is the bond, and here is what we are going to get from either state or from the county or from wherever it is. So that would really help. That's number one.
May I answer, or do you want me to wait?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so with regard to any grants, so those are on a rolling basis, so we don't know exactly what the grants are. But just to reassure everyone, just because we have a capital bond ordinance doesn't mean that we're able to spend it without having to go to the council for obvious reasons to make sure that the procurement process takes place. So what this sets is, allows the township to have a plan. Certainly we will provide that to you with good notice in advance and in detail.
Understood, Sonia, but this is not the first time we are passing the bond. I hear this commentary year over year, but I don't think, we really follow through that. But that's a debate for during the budget and for the next session. But my second question is, what will be your net debt after this bond? The township debt, what will be carrying on our balance sheet? Assume that we are going to spend this, because that's only the reason we have this, not today, but tomorrow this will be spent. So what is going to be total debt as of today, as of Wednesday, if this goes through?
So if we pass this ordinance, this will add about $28 million to our total outstanding debt.
What is that total?
So it's just under 200 million. I'll get you the exact number.
Okay, so altogether we are around 200 to 25?
Yes. Yes.
That's more than 25% of the township budget. We're somewhere 180, 175, 180 township budget for the year.
Correct. The
And our
township
debt
budget,
is
yes.
more than what probably we receive. Thank you.
Yes.
That's again a red flag. But more of those questions, once I go through the budget, once you send the details on the projects, that will be really helpful to understand. Because what I have not heard yet is the line items that really, I would say, they matters the most to the residents, the quality of life. Yes, the parks are great. Those are supposed to be done year over year. This is not the first administration they are doing the parks. Every single mayor has done it. We have a great DPW department who is constantly doing many projects, so that's a good sign. But I will have more questions once I see the detailed breakdown of the bond line items. My comment was on the, Council Vice President, about the missing revenue with the cannabis. hey, let's control our spending. Don't spend when you know that. If you look at last 3 years, how much money we have spent, we have outspent any mayor in last 25 years. So if you control our budget, we control our spending, I don't think we need to go cannabis route or any other route to bring in additional revenue. So let's do a good job. I'm not saying cut the corners, but yet we can improve the quality of life without getting miscellaneous money drugging the people. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Anybody else?
Council President, just one, it was a request. I got caught up in the whole 924
Just if you can make
thing.
it quick, yes.
Sonia, with this bond here, and this was something that I was actually looking for, and I really haven't gotten from you in the past, but this will help explain it. If I go to page 2, and you have the police department, right, estimated maximum about 970,000, let's say, and then there's another line item, fire department, that's for the fire engine, right, and it says 970,000. Can these bonds we've passed bonds like this over the last, let's say, 3 years. Could we get this document, and then on this document, instead of it saying 970, if you only spent 850, can you just put the 850 in that line item? And I'll tell you where my concern goes is we got a list of the bonds and what we expended, but we didn't get expended for what. And this goes back to where we did a cancellation on bonds, which I know is a good thing, but I'm pretty sure that my council colleague, if he would have known that, we were canceling out stuff for Clarabar in one of those bonds, and he would have known that over the last few years, he would have been advocating to get those projects done. So I'd like to see the bonds that we've passed over the last 3 years that just says what we actually expended, on the sheet, like on this sheet.
Sure. We did provide expenditure reports, so
You
they
did,
would have.
but it's not, you see this one here, this is really clear what you're spending it on, right? But what we got wasn't really clear on what we spent it on. So, right, like over here, this is for acquisition of a fire engine and pumper. Let's say we did one 2 years ago, and the pumper came in at 850,000. If you can just put 850,000 with brackets on it, just so we know what was expended and what's still open that we could possibly spend. Because I know that we approved a lot, especially water and sewer and stuff also. You know what I mean?
Right, just for clarification, so whatever we wrote in the manner in which we wrote those bonds, you can't put anything new into it if it's not what it's dedicated for. So I understand what you're asking me, so you're looking for a 3-year report of expenditures and then.
Against the bonds that we approved, listed with
Previously.
that bond, right?
Yep, we'll get that to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Just one more quick thing. It's just an advice thing, and you take it or leave it. I noticed in all my years here, right? I mean, even before your time, that we purchase trucks and cars. In fact, every month we're purchasing trucks and cars, hundreds of thousands of trucks and cars. Has anybody ever purchasing, right? And I know you're a purchasing agent. Has anybody went to all the departments and said, hey, what kind of trucks and cars could you possibly be looking for over this next year? And then put together a list and say, we need 50 white Tahoes or whatever it is.
No Tahoes, for the record.
Okay. And then send that out to every dealer saying we're requesting bids. Because I have a feeling when we bid stuff on the cooperative, they give us a low price there, but nobody's figuring that we're buying this volume. And I think maybe with buying that volume, you might actually get a substantial discount. I haven't done it, but maybe as the BA, maybe you could check with other
I think
people.
there was an issue with the supply, but
So we could do it in 3 ways. We can go through a co-op, which we do through the educational co-op. We can go through state contract, or we can put the stuff out to bid, of which we've done all in different ways. Again, it's the supply chain. What we're doing this year, much different though, rather than requiring departments that don't need SUVs, we are looking at the hybrid vehicles so that there's more energy efficiency looking into it, but at the same time, there is no need for the larger vehicles, which obviously are more money. So we could probably do with more. So that's the change we're looking at to see if we can go through the hybrid, which we could probably find could be more readily available versus, we had problems with the Fords and getting those vehicles in. And I think that's why there may have been all those Tahoes when I first started. But again, I think that we need to look and be open to other vehicles, especially environmentally friendly ones, that our inspectors could obviously drive around, who are, constantly stopping and going. So going that route is probably a best. But we've tried those three different ways to procure it. I know it's hard. Some folks are like, well, I go down the road and then there's 3 trucks there. But they're selling at a premium and they're not even going in there, and we can't even negotiate with them at that figure. They put in surcharges and that was always a contentious point. We've gone to our attorney saying, is this even legal? And it was sort of like, well, you need the vehicle, so you have to buy it. So it's been a really interesting time to purchase vehicles and trying to find ways to do it. I mean, we've gotten calls and, we've got all our folks, even our fire chief will call and like, I know so-and-so down there and they're on a state contract. Go get that purchase order done, but then we have to go through this process and get the council to approve it. So it's been a challenge, the long and short of it.
Oh, and I get it. With the state contracts, like if I put a bid in to sell for Bell Ford or whatever it might be at $30,000, because that's what I think I can make money on. But then what ends up happening is I can't purchase them for $30,000. I tell you, you have a 3-year wait. But yet I'm going down to Bell Ford and I'm looking at them on their lot. So I do get that, but I'm just saying if you did something in a volume type of thing, it might motivate them to move 30 vehicles out and make $1,000 on a vehicle as opposed to $2,000 on 4 vehicles.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's all.
And
Thank you.
Just to make a quick point, I think there was a supply chain issue, and that was the reason why we were waiting like 6 months or whatnot for each of the vehicles. But moving forward, Councilman Coyle.
To the BA, the Council President, for the road resurfacing, the $6.4 million of that allocation, as Councilman Brusher mentioned, any sewer improvement or water improvements, the list that we have out that comes with this bond, could we at any time hold off on paving a road to do the improvement first?
We sure,
If
we
and
can do
when
that, absolutely, and that's
We'll
what
be
we're.
coordinating together?
Exactly, we're doing a lot of coordination there.
And for the park improvements, how many parks are we doing for redoing or improving? Is it all parks or?
I can give you a brief list through our DPW director, if Council President.
I'll wait for a list.
Oh, would you like a list? Okay, sure, we can get that
Fine,
for
I
you.
don't have to bring it up here. And for Amboy Avenue, the mayor mentioned also doing, or this is a part of, brick pavers for Amboy Avenue. What part of that is in this bond, or is that something separate in the budget?
I don't believe that's in the budget, in the capital bond ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Coyle. Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, I see that there's a central line striping for the Williams Road. I just wanted to point out on Parsonage and Lafayette, at least this is the one that I constantly deal with, which is the right by Menlo Park Mall with the Panera Bread. There's always traffic backing up and pretty much holding the Lafayette Ave. So if you can get a box there, because I think that's a county road.
It is county, I was just going to mention, and I can certainly bring that up and see where that's at. They did pave it.
They did pave it, yes.
Last year.
Yes, so it's
Yeah.
paved, but it's not striped properly, and people essentially block Lafayette Ave going into Route 1, and it essentially blocks all the traffic and moves it back.
I'll reach out to our county folks, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to number 10 from the department, number 10 from Department of Law, A and B. Any questions or comments?
Council President?
Councilman Pato?
For A, if I read this ordinance correctly, it says for one EV station, we are counting that as a 2 parking spot. So we are waiving 1 parking. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any reason? In fact, everyone should be putting the parking, charging.
Sure, it's, if I understand your question correctly, the statute surrounding the electric vehicle ordinance has certain requirements that are mandatory for the township to have in its ordinance. So when Councilman Pointer brought this up a few weeks ago, asked me to review and amend, what I had to do was I had to go back to the state statute, compare it to the current township ordinance, and make any of those corrections necessary to bring it in line, because there are very specific aspects of it where the state statute says you may not amend this, you may not change this for your town, it will apply regardless of what you do to your code. So rather than have any kind of confusion around that, a lot of the language in there is pulled directly from the state statute and what it requires. So under the state statute, what it requires is that for every electric vehicle or make-ready space that you put in, it counts towards 2 of your required parking spaces. But what the township ordinance didn't have, and what the state statute says you can have, is a restriction on the number of those that you can count towards your total overall, or by how much you can actually reduce your overall parking obligation. So you can't say, well, I need 100 spaces, I'm gonna put 50 make-ready spaces in with all the wiring, and then that'll be my 100 spaces for a building that really needs 100 or 90 spaces, creating more of a parking problem. I believe it's a 10% reduction, right? Just trying to remember back to what I wrote. So that overall reduction, while still, depending on how you look at it, may be somewhat at least somewhat of a problem where there's already a problematic amount of parking. It is there to encourage electric vehicle use. It's a state statute mandate from the state to say we want to encourage the availability of electrical charging stations all throughout the state, and it's why they do it.
Understood. In fact, a few years ago, on the same dais, I had mentioned to mandate the EV station in CDBG zone or any of that type of area. But again, that back then the council didn't adopt that. But my question here is, do you know when the state statute was amended to have the mandatory EV stations?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think Mr. Pointer knows exactly when it was amended. He's got that excited look, so.
I will recognize Councilman Pointer.
The council in 2021 in August had passed its ordinance for the EV stations, which you were referencing. The state put out its guidelines, which then mandated that they had to be part of the municipal ordinances, actually September. So the municipal council had approved its EV ordinance essentially a month early compared to when the state statute came up.
Understood, but does the state statute says very specific zone? Is that residential, commercial, or doesn't have any specific language?
I didn't see in regards to specific zone, it went towards like municipal land use board applications that they would be subject to.
The reason I say that, we always then a developer or redeveloper comes to the planning board or zoning board and asks for the parking variances. Now, this will further create more parking situation in that if I need 50, if I'm a developer and I'm asking for 10 more, I would say 10 less than what is needed. And if I put 2 more EV stations, then it further goes down. So we are kind of complicating that calculation, and that's exactly the reason I asked, is this applicable to only in the cases where the developer or redeveloper is fulfilling the full parking allocation, and then yes, EV station can further reduce. But if they are taking the variance, then that defeats the whole purpose of this ordinance.
So I believe the minimum that they have to have is 2 parking stations. Anything above that minimum amount would be subject to the 10% maximum that they could reduce the total parking requirements by.
Okay. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you, Councilman Patel. Thank you, Councilman Pointer. Councilman Brescher?
Yes, A quick question, and I might have misread it. I didn't have time to reread it, so I'm just going to ask a question to the attorney. I thought I read something in there that said something about the charges for the electric. Maybe it was on a municipality side or something, that it doesn't necessarily that they don't have to charge you for the electric or something to that effect. Or did I misread that?
No, I think I know what you're talking about. I believe that there is the ability to charge people for the electric within here. I would have to take a look just to refresh and double check, but that it's not necessary, like it's not required to charge.
Well, can you look at it? And I'll tell you where my concerns are. With the whole EV thing, right? I got it, right? Elon Musk gave free electric if you bought his car, kind of thing, at the very beginning. There was a push to give the free electric, so we pushed forward with electric vehicles. I'm driving around Edison. I'm looking at, like, I don't know, 20-30% of the cars seem to be like electric vehicles at this point. So I was advocating down in Trenton to make sure that when they raised our gas tax, that people with electric vehicles are paying their fair share of the damage that they cause to the roads, just like the damage that my car causes to the roads. And I think they did that just recently. I think they're making it so that if you have an EV, you're going to pay an extra $200 when you register your car, right? So now it's back to being fair to everybody. But if there's anything where a municipality is giving free electric, then I propose that I would like to change my gas boiler out to electric baseboard heat and have the township pick up the tab for my free electric baseboard heat.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're asking now. So there was nothing in here that I recall anyway that gives the electricity to the property owner for free.
Okay.
There is, I think, what you read is the provision with respect to whether the property owner can then charge for the usage of the electric charging stations on the property. So there's nothing that says we're giving away electricity.
Okay, so the township, like, we don't have free electric chargers, and we're not going to pay for electric for these, for businesses, for people to go there and charge.
I can't answer that only because that's up to you guys. But there's nothing in this. This just establishes the rules for installation on private property and what the requirements are within the zones for what you can have, what you can't have, and how that establishes those. I mean, the township could, if it wanted to, install a bunch of electric charging stations in public parking lots and not charge for them, but that's not something that this ordinance does.
Okay. Sonia, do we do currently, I know we have one electric charging station out here. Is that free? You pay for that? It's free.
It doesn't work, but it's free.
Oh, well, there you go. So I guess we're not paying for the electric.
Well, at least the portions that are.
But you understand my concerns, and I think moving forward that should change. But I don't understand.
I think I understand Councilman Brush's concern that we don't want to give out free electricity because it's not fair to people who drive gas or hybrids. So I think that's a fair statement, and I think moving forward,
yes,
we should be mindful of that. And I think when we fix this charger, maybe we can make it one that we charge.
Council President, just as a point of clarification, 6 usage fees, item A deals with public EV charging stations. It establishes that the spaces shall be $0. However, on item B, it says this fee may be amended by a resolution adopted by the governing body. So subsequent to, if this ordinance passes, if we decided that for any municipal charging station to charge a fee, we would be able to do so by resolution. That's my understanding.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I say it's up to the
Oh,
body.
sorry.
But no, that I was looking for the specific provision of it so I could, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Council
so
President.
I would say, at least I'll be in favor to change it to start charging. Well, I agree with Councilman Brusher that we should treat everybody fairly. And I think at this point, EV is pretty pervasive, at least in our town. All right, moving forward, anybody else have any questions on Number 10, A and B? All right. Seeing none, number 11 for Department of Planning and Engineering, we are removing B, so it's only A. Any questions or comment?
Council President?
Yep, Councilman Pato.
On A, through Council President, question to BA, is this for the HDL, I believe, right?
Yes.
How is the rollout going? All the employees are on board?
All of the employees are on board. I believe the clerk's office was the last, and so far, it's so good. We've been putting it to use.
Good. Have our engineering and the zoning department is on board?
Yes.
Okay, so are they able to add the violations or any of those things through the HDL portal?
Everything is on the system.
Perfect. I'm going to cross-check a few of those that I'm aware, and I'll provide my feedback. And thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Councilman Patel. Anybody else?
You're pulling B.
Yeah, no B. Okay. Moving on to number 12, A through D. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Moving on to number 13 from the Department of Water and Sewer, A. Any questions or comments?
Yep, I had a question on B from Public Works.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. The fire alarm inspection and maintenance service, is this across the town or it's very specific to the buildings?
So Councilman Patel has a question on 12B, which is if this is across the town or just specific?
All the township buildings or its specific location we are looking?
Or is it specific?
There's the specific locations, so it's the Municipal Complex Senior Center, both senior centers, Stelton Community, Mini BVL Firehouse number 2. I'm assuming you all have the backup too, if you want me to just kind of read through it, but.
No, I don't need, the reason I asked the question is I want to make sure that I understand correctly. It's the senior center, Stelton Community, and Minnibyville. Those are the 3 predominant buildings.
The Health Center, the Animal Shelter, Kilmer Vehicle Maintenance Center, and Firehouse number 7.
So for the senior center, is everything working fine there? Which is on the Woodbridge Avenue?
Woodbridge, yes, it is.
There's no issue there. We passed the fire inspection last year.
All of that got repaired, yes.
Perfect. Do we think that this 200,000 will be enough if we are including Stelton Community Center? I don't know. That building is so absolute. You'll end up spending.
It's included in the package, so.
That's the reason I was surprised that, why it is too low. They should have been a little higher, but anyway, I will leave it to, Ray in your hands if you can. But I think it should be much higher, especially for Stelton Community. Thank you, Council President.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Patel.
Council President?
Councilman Brescher?
Yes, with the fire alarm, I know we spoke today about issues that you're taking care of now here. But I heard that you said that we have everything functioning at our senior center. Can we get the latest fire inspection report, the latest sprinkler report, and fire alarm panel report?
For the senior center you're looking for specifically?
Yes, for the senior center, just so we can just check it and verify that all the work there is done and everything's functioning.
Okay. Any other questions, Councilman Brescher?
Oh, that would be it, sir.
Moving on to number 13 now, from the Departments of Water and Sewer. A, any questions or comments?
Council President?
Councilman Patel?
Yeah, a question to Council President Sania. Is this only supplies and equipment, no emergency repair or any of those things, right?
Right, this is just for the maintenance.
Okay. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. All right, seeing none, moving on to number 14 from the Department of Recreation. A, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, moving on to number 15 from the Chief of Police. A, any questions or comments? Seeing none. Number 16 from the Township Clerk. A and B, any questions or comments?
Council President?
Councilman Pointer.
For A, for anyone that knows Walter Stolschel and the value and asset that he is, this is a win for the Dismal Swamp Commission. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Vice President?
And Councilman Pointer took the words out of my mouth. This is a hearty endorsement for him. Thank you.
And as same for me, he is a big influence for me in the Open Space Committee, and he runs a tight ship, and I hope I can learn a lot more from him. He has all of the history of the town, and anytime I ask him anything, he always knows the answer. So he's a great asset, and I hope we have him for many more years. All right, moving on to
Council President, just want to make a comment here. I agree, all my council colleagues, including you. He's really an asset. Any question you ask about the town, whether it's a north, south, Clarabar, or anywhere, I call him historian. It's a wealth of information. My only the question is why it is under clerk and not by mayor's appointment. But again, I was surprised. This is, I think we are recognizing someone, so we should have put something under administration. But again, if the statute says that, so it be. But
Yeah.
typically, all the appointments come from.
Yeah, I think this is the statute, according to Madam Clerk.
Yeah.
All right, any other? Councilman
yes.
Brusher?
This is just a question. The resolution waiving a permit fee for St. James Episcopal Church for electrical. This is like electrical permit, I assume, right? Why do we even charge them? Like, why do we?
So I think this is because a nonprofit, they have to go through this process.
Is that's what I'm getting at? Like, for all the nonprofits, they have to come to this body to execute this, so they don't have to pay the $39 fee.
Yeah, I think is there a way to streamline this?
They have to pay the GCA fee.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, GCA fee we cannot waive.
Okay.
Oh, wow, a church. Oh, I thought they were exempt. Wow.
I mean, I don't know, it depends on the permit and the percentage, but the DCA fee they pay.
Okay.
All right.
It's just our fee.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Brusher. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, moving on to number 17 from the council member of the Planning Board, Councilman Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. Planning Board held its regular monthly meeting on Monday, April 29th, with the following items presented and acted on. First, resolutions. The following resolutions were all accepted. P08-2023, 779 New Durham LLC, preliminary site plan approval. P13-2020, Designer Ratings Incorporated, amended preliminary and final site plan approval. P19-2023, A&D Holdings, denial for preliminary and final site plan approval. And P04-2024, The Links at Edison LLC, preliminary and final major subdivision approval. Next, several miscellaneous items were brought forth. First item, Resolution R134-032024. This is the Amboy Avenue redevelopment plan. Chairman Sandelsky indicated that the planning board would be having BFJ Planning, whom is the planner for the master plan, review the requested adjustments and provide their feedback. Second was ordinance number 2213-2024. This is the amendment to the zoning billboard ordinance, found to be in conformance with the master plan. Resolution R175-042024, referring the amended redevelopment plan for 1000 Inman Avenue. This was found to be in conformance. Resolution R177-042024, referring the redevelopment plan for John Street and Thomas Place, as what is before us on the agenda. P13, and that was found to be in conformance. P13-2019, 979 Amboy Avenue, LLC. This is an amendment to the resolution to amend the amount of affordable housing units from 7 to 6, which was due to a calculation error. This was approved. P09-2023, Garden State Buildings, LLC, a one-year extension for minor subdivision with preliminary and final site plan approval. That was approved. And finally, the BFJ Planning had a presentation going over amendments for the board's consideration of the master plan. Finally, the planning board heard new business. First was P06-2023, Your Way Construction, 270 Meadow Road. Applicant is seeking preliminary and final site plan approval to construct a commercial structure used for storage of construction materials and equipment. During the testimony, there were items brought forward regarding vehicle repair and maintenance, which, because that is a conditional use in the zone, may require the application to be heard before the zoning board. The applicant agreed to meet with the township planner to discuss that portion of the proposed operation in more detail to determine which board is appropriate. Therefore, the hearing was carried. Next was P01-2024, Raxton Restaurants, AKA the Burger King, 260 Plainfield Avenue. Applicant is proposing to add an additional merging lane to the existing drive-through, as well as other improvements to the building and landscaping as part of a complete renovation. No bulk variances were sought. The applicant explained that because of new buyer behavior in the fast food industry, that the seating previously needed inside isn't as necessary, and the renovations are geared towards more recent trends in the fast food industry. After all testimony was provided, the board motioned and approved the application, subject to several conditions of approval. The next planning board meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 13th at 7 p.m. here in Council Chambers. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Pointer. Moving on to number 18, unfinished business. Ordinance for further consideration and public. Okay, so this is just for comments. Let's start with ordinance 2213-2024. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Moving on to ordinance 2214-2024. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Moving on to number 19, discussion items. Councilman Brusher?
Okay, I have the Amazon that I still don't really have a good contact to get anyone there. And I'd still like to get that so that the next person in this town that gets any donation from Amazon, right, I'd like them to contact me. Maybe you could put a memo out to all employees, anybody that contacts anybody alive at Amazon, because otherwise Amazon's going to be here and I'm going to trash Amazon at every meeting about being a horrible neighbor to our community, and put out a warning to every community in the United States that you don't want an Amazon in your neighborhood, not unless you have an industrial park where you can keep them. I'm kind of losing my patience a little bit with that one. The sprinklers, thank you for your time today. I understand we're going to take care of that, and I'll be following up on that one. Tree ordinance. It's good to see that we have this, coming here to make sure that our residents are taken care of in that, and we still maintain the tree fund. Legal suits. We asked for some information that came from the GIF. To our attorney, I read something, and it might have been Edison's code, or maybe it's a state law or something like that, that says that the attorney or the mayor cannot approve any settlements without council's approval.
That's not necessarily true.
Well, where did I read that? That's one of our fake laws?
I don't know where you read it. I'm saying it's not necessarily true because it's not. The council is required for approval when township funds are being expended. So if a settlement is done in, let's say, a labor matter where discipline is at issue, right? And no money is actually being paid out, no funds are being expended as part of the settlement, that wouldn't necessarily have to go in front of the council. That also depends on the form of government that the municipality has.
I'm talking about our government.
In your government, something like that wouldn't have to go in front of you. My understanding is that there are certain aspects of some of the suits that get settled that don't require council approval because they're not spending township funds. They're not.
Well, now let me ask a question, right? Because we all know, we call it the end around, right? If we settle a lawsuit and this, what's that GIF called? Is that the Central Jersey?
Yes.
So that's CJ GIF, right?
IF.
Okay. So let's say that they settle a lawsuit and pay Joyce $100,000 because she said, she was offended when she came here, just arbitrarily. The GIF now has to pay. But we're not required to approve that as per you because the township body did not have to pay, right? But here's where my question comes in, and here's where I think this is one of these sneaky lawyer things, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Does the GIF come to us and do we have to pay the GIF? Or does the GIF do this for us for free?
neither. So you pay a premium for your insurance, right? And I know you called it a sneaky lawyer thing.
Right.
But this is not a sneaky lawyer thing. This is an insurance issue, okay? And those insurance contracts are complicated, and they deliberately make them so. But
So we pay.
if you're paying your premiums,
Right.
depending on the type of insurance and depending on whether you've got a deductible or an SRI, that dictates how they can handle some of these claims. So as part of your premium payment, it gives them the right to settle certain things below a threshold limit so that there is not additional exposure.
Okay, so let me put it to you like this. Sonia, I'm requesting the amount of money we've paid in premium to the JIF for the last 3 years, including the current bill that would be in our budget, just to see that, because if they increase it, right, then they increase it because they had a claim, then that claim would be because of the money that we expended.
Not necessarily.
And Mike, can you also do me a favor? Can you get me the bylaws or the laws that the JIF operates and runs under? Because I'd like to read very in depth with them. I'm also going to send an Oprah request to the JIF to get a list of any settlements that they had. They're a public body, and therefore they are, well, they'd have to adhere to the Oprah law. But I'm going to send the Oprah as Councilman Brescher from my councilman email. So in case they have a problem, they can contact me with that. Legal suit lawyer, Oprah, right? Okay, that was that one. Finance. Question for somebody that knows something about finance here. If the schools were to need a $30 million renovation, and the classrooms were a $20 million of that renovation, but the gym was a $10 million renovation, and the township, or this body, or somebody, would agree to do some kind of joint thing where they allow us to use their gyms, can the township do bonding so that the bonding isn't like a 5-year bond? It would be more like a 20-year bond or something?
Yes. Yeah, we would enter into tantamount to a shared services, shared facility type of agreement.
Okay.
And we can contribute capital funds into the project. The useful life would depend upon what it is we're building and what's equipped in there, but
And I'm not,
generally, yes.
and the school could pay that bond though?
Correct.
Or would this body be, so the school could pay it?
The
So
school
it's-
could pay, we could pay a portion if we're using that portion of the facility.
Okay, because they were talking about, we use their facilities for, whatever, the programs we run, wrestling and stuff like that in their schools. And they're trying to do all this work. The issue that they have is that they can only do like those short-term bonds, which then the payments are quite large, as opposed to push it out over like a 20-year life cycle or something like that.
So that request would need to come from their administration to our administration, obviously, to come into some sort of shared services agreement. That's how that would be initiated.
Okay. Thank you very much for that one. I have bonds, and this was just an understanding thing. I kind of went through this a little bit with Sonia. Sonia did give me an answer on it. But my question was, we pass a bond, kind of like this bond right here, $29 million. This year, the administration uses $5 million of that to purchase the George Spadoro property on Amboy Avenue, right? Now, that's the short-term bond. And the question is, what interest rate do we pay on that short-term bond?
Yeah, presently, we would be borrowing one-year notes at around 3.5%.
3.5. Okay. Now, if we were going to go for, let's say, a 30-year bond or 20-year bond, what are those rates?
It's a strange phenomenon we're in right now at this time because we're in what's called an inverted yield curve, where very short-term interest rates are higher than long-term interest rates. So if we were to do a 15 or 20-year bond financing, the rate would still be around 3.5%.
So it would be equal, it doesn't matter whether we do short or long.
At this moment in time, that's not typical, but at this moment in time, that's.
Okay, and typically what would it be?
It could be, usually you would see at least a 25 to 75 basis point difference between short-term and long-term rates.
Okay.
But just to give you an example, the way the short-term rates are so high is we invest our funds based upon Fed fund rates and shorter-term Treasury bill rates. So we're getting 5% on interest on investments on our funds.
Well, that's where I was going originally, was that instead of us doing the short-term bond, which let's say would pay 4%, if we took the balance of the money and did a long-term bond, which would be slightly less, and while we still needed that, if we put that into like a savings or a security, right? That would cover that difference, and it might be cheaper than doing two bonds, doing that little short-term bond, then doing a long-term bond. But you just told me that the rates are the same at this current time.
Correct.
So I understand, and thank you for that. 3 to 4 stories. Our resident came. He asked the questions I was going to ask. You know, what can we do with it? How can that happen? So I look forward to seeing what we have. And graffiti. Have we removed any graffiti over since our last meeting when we talked about this?
So we have driven around, but what I did request was if there were specific areas. But anytime we've got graffiti, we have made sure that we took care of it. But if you do have specific areas, I'd ask that you put in so we can do a work order.
Well, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drive all around Edison. I'm going to find the areas, and then I'm going to ask you for your tracking log for all your employees, because I know you track all their vehicles, to make sure that none of those vehicles went down that road and just didn't report it to you guys. Because I asked you guys to do your job, but what you're telling me is that I need to do your job, right? I need to tell you where it is. And what I'm saying is that's not my job. Okay, you have a township full of municipality employees. We have police officers. They drive around all day. If they see the graffiti, it's really simple. They could send the email to DPW. You know what I mean? That's how things gets handled, and that's how you fix that broken window, broken glass thing. Not by having your council people ride around this town to look for stuff. But because that was your request, that is exactly what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to ask at the next meeting, how come nobody drove down those roads and why nobody sees anything, right? So this is a directive that should come from the top, from the administration, from the mayor, saying that, you know, we have a broken window policy here. This isn't all about getting on TV for some bus, but actually making the residents' lives here nicer, okay? And I don't feel like that's happening. I feel that the residents are being neglected. I don't believe it's coming from the mayor down to you, down to DPW, and from him to his employees to note all the areas of the broken glass around the town. It's like we're walking around with blinders. So we'll leave this one here, and we'll bring this up at our next meeting. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. Moving on to Councilman Coyle.
Thank you, Council President. Now that the budget's been presented to us, I'll be asking for a Finance Committee meeting shortly, if you just give me the date. Economic Developer, any movement on that?
Again, we're pending the interviews.
Okay. And Public Works, I just want to make a few brief comments. First, I want to thank the council for supporting all the great equipment that we purchased for them over the last 2 years, because I got a chance to witness some of the equipment for installing trees and so forth. And I have to say, they have some operation compared to what we were before and where we are now. I mean, we are moving at a freight train level of getting things done. I mean, as we dig a hole, place a tree in the ground, I mean, I think there's less labor on our guys and team on their backs. But, I mean, it's an operation you should be proud of. I mean, definitely, we are competing with landscapers anywhere around the town when it comes to installing trees. I had a chance to be at Dudash Park, where they installed probably, 30-plus trees in that area and more being installed. So not only were we installing trees, it's tree-lined around the park, so you should be proud. And that's not the only park that's been done. Swales Park's been done and many others, so some great things happening. I just want to piggyback on some of the parks and their conditions. I've been pretty happy with what I've seen so far going through them compared to before. We had broken benches and graffiti in some areas. I think they've improved a lot. I think when I understand that the labor crew will write up a park if there's something there on site, and that's their responsibility. So for the parks itself, to Rich's comments, definitely the graffiti would be written up there. And not long ago, which was decades, in 95, when I started cleaning up graffiti, one of my first tasks doing community outreach, the town was definitely in a different direction. And today, I could say I have not driven around to see any in the neighborhood. And I think we do get it down pretty fast, which is great. So I'm happy about that. But always more reporting is always worth it, and it certainly helps all of us to bring it forward to the town and administration to get things cleaned up. So that's all I have for now. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle. Moving on to Council Vice President.
Yes. First question is about noise pollution ordinances. One of my neighbors contacted me about the abundance of gas-powered leaf blowers, grass blowers, clippings blowers, and she works from home, and she said during the day, because it's now landscaping season and there are a number of landscaping companies in the neighborhood, she can hardly hear herself think. And I wondered what kinds of ordinances we have with regard to noise pollution, and if there is any kind of enforcement about this.
So I think last time Sonia answered that we could have multiple, but one thing I do remember in California, they passed so that there could be no gas-powered, electronic appliances. But I'll have legal answer this.
There are a number of municipalities in the state of New Jersey that either wholly restrict or seasonally restrict some of the two-stroke engines, the smaller, louder engines for at least part of the year. There are a number of impacts to doing that that need to be taken into consideration. That's part of the reason why some towns do, all right, you can use those from March to May or April to May, and then you have to move to electric before you move on. But it's certainly something that can be looked into if that's something that the council wants.
So do we have any such ordinance on the books right now for Edison?
Not that I recall. I mean, we have a noise ordinance per se, as you know, but you're referring to noise pollution with the gas leaf blowers.
Yes.
So to our attorney's point, there are several townships in New Jersey, and I've worked in some of them that restrict them to seasons, if you will. So we can certainly provide that to the council if that is the will of the council to review that policy.
All right, I would like to see us move forward with that. Just to also comment on the settlement agreements issue that Councilman Brescher spoke about. I first learned about this particular settlement on Facebook, and even though this is not a matter that would come to council for approval, I still think as council members, we should be informed about these settlements. I shouldn't have to learn this on Facebook. And so I'm hoping that as we go forward, that we are informed and that I don't have to pick it up. I don't have to pick up the information from there. Can we move forward on that?
So what can we do in this legal? Is there something we can be informed? Like, how does this process would work?
Just for clarification, this was done through the JIF.
I'm sorry?
This was done through the JIF, the Joint
Okay.
Insurance Fund. So again, I'm going to rely on our legal in terms of the role of the JIF.
I don't think that's the question right now, right? The question is what can be done to make sure that the council itself is informed about these settlements when they happen,
Exactly,
right? Even if
yes.
it's the JIF that settles it, something should
Yes.
come, even if it's an executive session, which would usually be how it would be handled is that either the insurance company for the JIF would come here and you'd host an executive session for them to advise you about what the settlement is, even if there's no other way to do it. That's usually the most frequent way that I've seen it done in other townships, and I think it's been done that way here before. I don't know the particulars of this case. I know it was settled at some point last year to know when it was settled and who ultimately made that decision.
And who does make the ultimate decision? Is it the town or is it the administration? Like, because I know last time you explained that it's like they'll come to you and they'll say, hey, we will settle this for $80,000. If you don't want to settle it, anything that goes above is, here's your $80,000. Anything else will be your problem.
So I think that goes a lot towards what Councilman Brescher was asking for earlier with some of the bylaws and what you had requested with respect to the contracts, and that's a much longer conversation. I think that we should have after getting a hold of those documents.
But I am in agreement with my council colleagues as to we should be informed of these, and I think maybe having a closed session just to be informed, not necessarily, even if we don't have an input on it, I would like to be informed, especially since there is some financial hit that it does deal with the financials, as there might be some premium increases, whether or not it's accurate, because insurance is very complicated. It might not be at all, but still, there might be a chance, and I would like to be our council colleagues would like to be aware of it. I think, yeah. So just moving forward, if there's any settlements, maybe a closed session.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
If that's the will of the body, to have a closed session to discuss these particular, or rather to get a list of these particular matters. And I will surely bring it up to the attorney to see how we can handle that and give that to you all, and obviously confidential information.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Progress on the Ferrante House. How are we doing?
I know we had some pipes to replace in that recently, so I can give it to Ray, who can cover us and where we're going at this point.
Plumbing has been fixed. Good step. In order to fix the plumbing, we had to rip up a bunch of different floors. So that's the stage we're at now. The next step will be to replace the flooring and decide what we're going to do overall with the flooring there. And the next question you're going to ask me is, when are we going to decide on what we're going to do? And the answer is, I don't have that answer for you today. They literally finished like 24 hours ago. So I haven't even been up there myself to see it as yet, to understand the damage. I know it occurred in 2 or 3 of the bathrooms and in one area of the house. Personally, I was heartbroken because I really love that old looking wood plank floor. So I just have to go up and take a look at it.
Can you guesstimate as to whether or not the Ferrante House will be able to be open at any time before the end of this calendar year? Because the Cultural Arts
I'd
Commission...
say that's fair.
Yes? You think?
I'd say that's fair. Again, it depends on the priorities in which I receive from the administration, but given the current calendar, I think that's fair that may occur.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. The racial flyer was discussed at the last meeting, and that we're coming up on the statute of limitations. And the question was whether council has any purview to get some answers from the Attorney General about this.
I had a conversation with the head of legal, with Mr. Ranone, about this. It's in the Attorney General's hands, and the unfortunate conclusion that we were able to come to is that you can't really demand anything of the AG's office. Either they will move forward, they will not move forward, they will prosecute, decline to prosecute. And even if you requested information, they're under no obligation to grant it or to respond. So that is the unfortunate reality.
I would decode that to say that it looks like that's going to wither and die on the vine, unfortunately. And I think that's really a shame, considering what a big deal this was. To decorum and First Amendment rights. I had requested from legal last week on a couple of occasions to get some documentation about the rules of decorum as they apply to our Edison Township Council meetings, and I hadn't heard back anything until just late this afternoon. I got from our attorney, I got a document, a memorandum about this, and so I've asked Michael Burns to kind of give us a Cliff Notes version of what this says, and to try to clarify for everyone First Amendment versus rules of decorum.
Yep. So what I provided to the Council Vice President was a more recent case, 2022, from the Federal District Courts, which goes into a fairly detailed explanation of when and how you can enforce the rules of decorum at a council meeting. We'll start with the Edison Township Code. The Edison Township Code does invest in the council president, the right to enforce the rules of decorum, the right to have someone removed or to otherwise sanction someone for violations of the rules of decorum. That right is imposable if you are in violation. The case that I provided, Grant versus Slattery, does go into a great deal of detail using a long line of established case law that indicates that these meetings are a public forum, but they are not an unlimited open public forum where anything goes. That in the event that someone is being disruptive to the point where the council has to act, that the imposition of the restrictions under the rules of decorum is not only acceptable but expected, and that there is a great deal of rationale for why that is important. Part of it is because it does infringe upon the rights of others to attend these meetings. It infringes upon the rights of others to be heard by the council or to participate in the council meeting. Now, that being said, that is, again, where the council meeting is being disrupted, actively disrupted. Someone who uses bad language once isn't disrupting the meeting. That doesn't happen. But someone who is being abusive, threatening, using vulgar language that is offensive is in violation of those rules of decorum. The courts have held that, the courts have held that time and time again. And they have said repeatedly that the council or the board has the right to impose those rules. I'm trying to remember the name of the other case that was in 2022. I think it's Moms versus something. It's another group in which, you know, they were being abusive, they were being overly argumentative, they were refusing to allow the business of council to proceed. They were removed. You know, no one was charged criminally, no one is criminalizing speech, no one intends to criminalize speech, but there are rules that have to be followed, and the courts will uphold those rules so long as they are followed based upon decorum and not the actual ideas being expressed, right? So if this council tries to stop someone because they want to be critical of the council, critical of the mayor, critical of township employees even, that's not acceptable, right? Being critical is not a problem. Disagreeing with the council or the council disagreeing with you is not a problem. But the manner in which you do so can rise to the level of disruptive to the functions of this community, disruptive to the functions of this council.
So if I may, I just want to read a paragraph and subparagraph here that speaks to how this affects us. It says, enforcement of the rules of decorum is legally permissible and has a long history of cases to reinforce that idea as per the Grant decision. Edison Township Code 2-2.8b states, the council president shall, on all occasions, preserve the strictest order and decorum and shall cause the removal of all persons who interrupt the orderly proceedings of council, do not criminalize speech, nor do they block the, I'm not quite understanding this.
There might be a typo in there. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, this ended up being part of that is not supposed to be.
So-
That is the end of the thing. There's an extra line in there that should have been taken out.
So the part that says do not criminalize speech, nor do they block the expression of any content without a reasonable opportunity to present that content in another manner, for example, with the use of vulgarity or abusive language.
Yeah, that should actually be not part of the township code section.
Okay.
That is rules that do not criminalize speech or block
right.
the expression of the content.
So what I'm extracting from this is it sounds like it's pretty much at the discretion of council president to decide if the rules of decorum are being violated.
That is accurate, yes.
Okay, so it's kind of squishy.
So there are two things. One, if the council president makes a mistake on that, then that is what lawsuits are for. That's what it is. It's if someone feels like they have had their First Amendment rights violated, that's what they're there for. And based upon this council president's interpretation of it, I don't have any fear of that. He's been very reasonable. He's been very much siding in the favor of letting people speak to the extent necessary to express their ideas or points. The secondary part of that is that if the council president makes a decision based upon his interpretation of the rules of decorum that the council doesn't agree with, there's always something that can be discussed afterwards, something that could be reinterpreted, something that could be addressed after that decision is made.
So if a member of the public should address anyone any of the employees, any of the council members, or speak of the mayor, and that they use curse words and they attack said person, what, is that considered a violation?
That would be a violation.
Okay.
So the most simplest way to put it is you can be critical and say, hey, I don't like this job that you're doing. You can even use a little bit of curse words, but if you're looking to incite anger in the other person and diminish them and essentially get a reaction out of them, that would be kind of crossing the line rather than, hey, you're trying to make a point. In that case, you're looking to get a reaction, trying to disorder our forum that we're here to do the township business. And at that point, yes, you will be asked to stop and you will be asked to sit down. And if you don't follow that, then you'll be kicked out.
Okay. So it sounds like leeway is given to a certain extent.
Yes.
To the speaker. If it turns into, and so even with cursing up there, it's permitted, it seems to be permitted if that curse is used to label somebody that's present or
Or
even if
express
not
your
present.
anger rather than, if I were to, curse someone out, that's not allowed. But if you were saying, I am so effing frustrated about this, it's fine. You're not looking to incite someone. In this case, that's part of your language, that's how you express yourself, that is okay. But if you're looking to attack someone, that is different. Then you're looking to incite something that is not conducive to a good forum of discussion.
Okay. Okay, so it's very discretionary, but it seems that there's more leeway than we might have previously been made to believe. It's not that cursing is it's not out of bounds, it's not grounds for taking someone out of here.
Cursing, I think we've always been, or at least tried to be very clear about this. Cursing alone is not a problem. and I think we said that at the last meeting as well, and I think the council president said that at the last meeting as well, that cursing alone is not the issue. I don't think anyone's ever been threatened with removal if they used a curse word once, if it came out in their language, if it was something that wasn't being hurled abusively or used in a manner that I think clearly violates the rules of decorum. So,
Well, somebody was, though, just so you know.
And do you want to continue, Council Vice President?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to continue?
I mean, I'm happy to have Councilman Brescher comment on this.
Councilman Brusher?
I was going to say yes. When I was on the council, we had somebody that came up with a sign, and they were asked to leave with the sign. This is, I think Bob Deal was council president at the time and asked them to leave, which then prodded people to come back when Joe Coyle was president with the sign, but Joe Coyle didn't ask them to leave. He remained, seated. I mean, I think this just gets, like, well, I don't even want, I want to say it's very, very simple. This isn't something that even needs to be convoluted or murky. When the lawyer said, vulgar language, would be a grounds. I think really, and I want to try and make this as simple as possible. If I said the same thing, but one way I said it as like this, that is attacking. That is the issue. Where if I speak in the tone that I'm speaking and I sit like I'm sitting now, and I use the 7 dirty words to call anybody, any one of us, whatever it is, I think that's protected by the Constitution, and I don't know that anybody here really disagrees with the language. I think it's the tone.
I think it's the tone and the insightness. Like if I were to,
yes.
Almost like intention. Yeah. And again, you'll be asked to stop and reiterate in a threatening way. And if you don't want to do that and you want to continue the verbal attacks, then you'll be asked to sit down or removed.
And that's what I read in that original. I didn't see this new law, and I was hoping to see that. So I'd like to see if I can get a copy of whatever they sent you.
I'll forward it.
But right, the original one, that it was very, very clear. It was the threatening, menacing part. So if I use 7 dirty words and just started yelling, or not yelling, but just speaking and just cursing, right? Yet you didn't use the dirty words at all, but you were threatening and menacing, your actions would be cause for removal. So it has nothing to do with the verbiage itself. It's more the actions,
Intention,
tone.
yeah. I agree with Councilman Brusher.
So, as another example, if I were to, in a retort to Councilman Brescher, say to him, "You're an effing a-hole," but instead using all the words, would that be considered an attack?
So you say effing a-hole and you use those words?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be considered an attack. But if you were to say, hey, I am not appreciative of
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah,
I get that.
then it's fine. So I would ask him to stop and ask him to reword that. And if he doesn't, then yeah.
I'll try not to call Councilman Brescher an effing a-hole. All right, moving on, the last item. Going back to the Edison TV Council meeting showings, and I know I had communications with Sonia, and this was particularly involving Esther Nemitz, who at 91 years old and does not really have the technology. She has her cell phone, she doesn't have a computer. And so she has been limited to the rebroadcast of these meetings, but sometimes is not able to see them because they're on such a limited basis. I'm wondering, Sonia, did you finally make contact with her?
I did not, and I called her twice and sent a follow-up email. So what I would like to do is, as we've done with our seniors, is try to accommodate her with something so that she's able to view them on her TV. As you mentioned, she has a cell phone and a TV that may allow her to do so. So we want to get somebody out there to give her a hand, as we do with our other seniors.
Okay, thank you. That'll be it, Council President.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Moving on to Councilman Patil.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to just continue what Council Vice President mentioned on the First Amendment. Just question to the attorney. You said it is up to the council president and it's up to the council president's interpretation of whether he should stop or he should not stop. To me, not only this council, but including the administration and especially Attorney you, it's our job to protect and honor and integrity of the township employees. I don't think we should differentiate, we should clearly differentiate how we should treat. If someone is coming and attacking an employee, we are jeopardizing a lot of things here. If they attack me or anyone on this council dais, they are elected, I'm perfectly fine. They can criticize, they can attack, I'm perfectly fine. So I'm trying to understand that fine line. And believe me, again, before you say that, in my last 8 years, I have never seen the attorney is the first who jump and take the bullet first. Whether it is a council member or it is an employee of the town, to stop any attack and try to control the meeting, which I have not seen in last year and this year. But again, I'm just bringing that to, and you can answer my question, sir.
Sorry, what was the question?
The question is, where's that line?
Yes. Yeah.
So, the short version is the line is really wherever the council wants it to be. It's fungible. If the council says that if you come in here and you criticize employees of the township, we're going to shut you down, that is something that the council president would then either have to enforce or not enforce, right? So we can talk about hypotheticals all day up here, and at some point we veer away from discussing the actual state of the law itself into me kind of trying to advise you on legal issues that may or may not come up, and which may mean that we should not do this in a public forum at that point, and perhaps dedicate an executive session to discussing some of the finer points of this. Well, what about when this happens? Can we do this? Because at that point, if you have an issue that you want a real answer for, that may not be advisable to have that discussion in an open forum for someone to use against you or for someone to come in and deliberately attempt to manipulate.
Understood.
So there comes a point there where it's a problem.
And that's exactly the reason we have an attorney on this dais who can advise the council members what to say and what not to say when there is something happens on the podium, which again, I have not seen you doing that. So this shouldn't be subjective based on council president's interpretation. No, it has to be black and white, yes or no. And that's what I'm saying, I'll be happy to go in the executive session. But again, the whole our objective of this council is to protect the honor and dignity of the township employees. I'll start with my first question, Council Vice President, Council President. With the public safety, and especially North Edison substation, I know the good PR, I said this last time, and Chief, if you don't mind answering the question, but it's a great PR. We say, yes, there is a North Edison substation. I live very close by, and I did visit this substation not once, not twice, but at least dozen times, and I have not seen a single employee at that substation. So I don't know what value we're adding. North Edison, and that's what my question was on the operation. When do I expect someone to be there, or it is just there for the show? Okay, let me make simple question. Is this 24/7 substation?
Substation is not 24/7, no. There are hours up until probably around midnight when there is officers there. Currently, just so you know, the substation was actually removed today temporarily for some service work to be done on it. So if you were to go up there right now, it is not currently there. I'm not sure what time of day you may have gone up there, but primarily, yes, there are officers assigned to that substation.
I have been there various time, daytime, 8 o'clock, 10 p.m., 11 p.m., including midnight. I have not seen any officer there. If you want, I can do the Facebook Live, that happens, but I don't want to do that. That's the reason I wanted to bring it here. that's just I just want to set the expectation when we can expect that residents can go there if there is any situation that arise. That's the whole idea of the substation is.
The substation, again, not a 24/7 operation. Certainly during normal business hours, into the evening, into the early night, that's when we were cutting it off, because we even actually got input from this council that, we want to see officers on the streets. So having an officer over there all night didn't make a lot of sense to us. So that's why we had, we closed it at a particular time, and that officer that may have been assigned there would be assigned to other patrol duties.
Okay. Do you mind posting the hours of operation? Because if the resident go there at 8 o'clock and no one is there.
We can certainly look at, posting hours. That's not an issue.
Right. Again, I'm not criticizing this, the North Edison substation. I'm just trying to see how optimally residents can use that facility. That's the whole idea there.
Yes, sir, no problem.
Thank you. My next one is the safety topics. We discuss about the flashing lights, speed limit on Calvert Grove, the New Brunswick Avenue. This is going on for almost a year now, right? And it's good that we finally got the flashing lights. They will be put around the schools. But there are some hot areas, the accident areas. I don't know why we are delaying. We got $30 million bond, and hopefully that does cover some of those.
It is in there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I will not, bring that topic if it is part of that, part of this bond. School bus routing. We have the traffic unit. Do they really go out during the school bus timing and see where the traffic congestion is there and how optimally we can resolve some of those route issues? I'll tell you, Talmage is always blocked in morning time, evening, afternoon time. Amba Avenue has the same problem. You go on the New Brunswick Avenue has the same problem. You go towards the Edison High, it's the same issue. Again, every year the Board of Education goes out and bid for the bus routes. So if the traffic unit can provide that feedback and ask them to change some of those bus stops, will be really helpful to control the traffic on these heavy traffic roads. So my question is, are we working toward that? Because I did bring this topic, I think 2-3 months ago. I don't know if anyone got a chance to look into that.
Chief, if you will.
And I have the several pictures where, buses on the two sides are stopped and there is a traffic for almost a mile.
Okay, so in regards to bus routes, obviously there's bus routes that literally traverse all over the township. A lot of them are on major thoroughfares, a lot of them are side streets. We don't really focus on bus routes per se, but we have focused in on working with the various schools to try to assist them with traffic flow in and out, also bus flow in and out of schools and the roads that are adjacent to those schools. So that is an ongoing process. We have worked with James Monroe, we've worked with John Adams, we've worked with Woodbrook, we've worked with Woodrow Wilson. So there's schools that have had traffic complaints that we've assisted with to try to make things flow better. But on the outskirts, I can't say we've done anything away from those schools.
Okay. Is there a possibility that we can look at, and we have opportunities, bus can really make a little extra turn inside, and the kids from those either complexes or the communities can get up or get down from the bus, that would avoid the traffic situation. And I can give the examples, many examples on that, and happy to work with you. But again, I just wanted to see that if any effort was made in a past around that.
Which particular school are you referring to?
This across the board. Buses come from all over, right?
Yeah, so I can't say every school's been looked at. I can say a number of schools have been looked at, some of which I mentioned, some of which I haven't mentioned. But if you have a particular school or suggestion, I would be happy to look at it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the next one is the legal case status on the Glendale property. Where we stand.
My understanding is that Mr. Renone briefed you the last time that he was here. I don't believe there's been any change since then.
Okay, so it's a status quo. Okay, I'll just skip the next one because I'm waiting for the master plan for the spot zoning open, especially for the spot zoning. Talmage Road, New Brunswick traffic lights timing. Sanya, I know you sent me I think it was dated back 20 years ago. Can we do again, this goes back to the traffic unit, right? They do provide the report, and based on that, you recommend some actions to the council. But I have not seen the traffic unit going and really looking at the traffic pattern, and especially this one. It's a 6 seconds or 8 seconds, literally, from New Brunswick, taking left or right turn on Talmage, and it piles up the traffic. So this is something, if we can invest doing the traffic study, will be helpful to avoid the congestion in that neighborhood. The next one, again, this is the repeat question from last meeting, condos, townhouses, reimbursement update. I did ask for the list of all these condos, townhouses, etc., and what is our reimbursement schedule or the dollar amount. Because this goes directly related to the tax question. But again, if you don't have it now, that's fine. But if you can send me through email, that will be helpful.
Sure. What I just want to tell you, actively, we are looking at all of the agreements to understand what we could potentially seek with the various HOAs. So that's something this administration is looking at. What is your particular question in terms of the?
My question is if you can send me the list of all the condos, townhouses, and how much money we have reimbursed them in 2022 and 2023.
Okay.
Next one is recycle and garbage pickup schedule. Nowadays, we all know that we have more recycled items than the garbage. And I think this topic was discussed 2 years ago. The request was to look into the possibility of having frequent recycle pickup than the garbage pickup, again, without changing this thing. I know, that has been looked up, but if we can expedite, that would be helpful. I'll skip the next one, the tax assessments. I see that, we are purchasing a software, so that's a good thing. That was the suggestion coming from me. I just wanted to see if we can make that as a better, rather than judgmental, if you can do some through the analytics. Revenue questions. What is the net 2023, our tax revenue? Is that rateable? Did it go up? I heard somewhere $30 million or something.
Let's just pull up that for you.
Okay. Okay, well, Ken looks at that, and I'll just go through the miscellaneous.
Our total ratables in '24 increased approximately $43.4 million over 2023.
Okay. So we have a substantial increase in ratable, in fact. Okay.
It's an increase of about 0.6%. I wouldn't say it's substantial, but it's decent.
It's a decent,
Yes.
because that should, cover up our cost of living or this amount of money that we spend in terms of agreement, etc. So I'm not sure why we are looking for additional money, but that is where the revenue. Was there any decrease in the revenue in any other sectors? I know that for sure last year I did mention that selling the liquor licenses is not our revenue source, which was never in past, but we did account quite a bit money there, and there might be reduction. But are there any other areas on the revenue side? There is a less revenue, like the building construction might be less than what we anticipated, something, without getting into details of the budget.
There are several areas on the revenue side where we're lower. One is we have significantly less funds coming in from the American Rescue Plan to be used in 2024, and we're using the remaining $700,000. So last year we had over $5 million or plus, so we're down there. Yeah, and we're also down last year. In 22, we also received extra state funding of about $1.4 million. We have not been advised if we're going to get anything like that this year.
But the American Rescue, I think this is linked with the COVID money, right?
Correct.
And we all know that this is not a permanent revenue source, so of course
Correct.
this will be dying
Right.
there. Okay. Okay, that's the question. I'll move on to the miscellaneous questions on the flooding. This will be for DPW, Sonia. On the Winding Brook area, there is erosion of the backyard, and there is a creek, there is a blue line. I don't know if this is on the list of the water lines or the natural lines we clean, rolling Winding Brook area.
Winding Road?
Yes, Winding Brook. The resident called me day before yesterday. It's some strange situation, and that's the reason I had a question for the health was coyote. They found that there's a male and female with few babies in their backyard. Coyotes.
Coyotes?
Yes. And they called, I believe, our health department, and they were told that you go and figure it out how to remove them.
Fish and Wildlife.
Is that a free service or it is?
That is through the state. Fish and Wildlife, that's what you typically call for, I'll call every other animal outside of a cat and feline.
Do you mind me sending details so you can?
Sure,
redirect
absolutely.
Perfectly, thank you, because, they are panicking. It's a coyote in the backyard, right? I sent an email on the official road condition, and I hope, this comes on the, this year's. The question on the mini ponds, a couple of residents, I think couple of areas, residents reach out, they have the mini pond, I would say more of a dismal swamp type of the pond. Is there some sort of a beautification that can be done? One is off Talmage, right on Talmage. And the residents reach out, it's a green water there. Can we clean that? Can we put some pavers around? Can we plant flowers so it looks nice rather than looking at the green water there, if you can? And I'll send an email on that if you need. My next question is on Amba Avenue, the one again, this is for the attorney. When we send to the planning board the resolution, I think we will be out with 45 days time period. And what I heard that if planning board does not act within 45 days, council can adopt.
Yeah, and that's what I've got to double check on to make sure that the action, it's why I have to speak with Councilman Pointer. I want to make sure that I understand exactly what they did do. From my understanding, they sent it to the engineers for a review. But that's why I want to talk to them to make sure I can put something in front of you if necessary.
Right, but the clock has the meaning there, right? So they can take.
Yeah, the 45 days is up.
Yep, that's what my question was. Again, and last one, thank you, Chief and DPW for putting the 35 miles an hour sign there on Oak Tree Road. And traffic is in control. I can see the difference. Thank you for that. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Moving to number 20, adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
May I have a second? All right, that's a motion by Councilman Patil, second by Council Vice President. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is adjourned at 8:34.
Oh, you spilled. See, the same thing happened. You spilled water.
I know.